Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Again, there are those who would say that the transformation is too quick. That who is my partner, who is the human being who now literally stands at my side watching, would not be able to accomplish this kind of a shift this quickly. What you are seeing is the new energy at work. You have to expect that some things change. There would be those, especially those who have been in what you would call metaphysics, nicknamed the New Age, for many, many years. The thought that God never changes. And therefore, the processes of God never change. And therefore, the things they are seeing today are somewhat inappropriate, for they do not have a confluence of energy of the old ways. So let me address that first. And what we say is this: God is never, ever going to change. The same yesterday, today, and forever. The benevolent creator of the universe, family member, one who sings the song of love in your heart, will never shift, will never stop, will never change. Stable in all ways. What has shifted is your relationship. As you change, as your DNA shifts, as your consciousness awakens, that which you do with spirit shifts with it. There are those understanding that what took 3 hours of meditation in the past can be accomplished immediately now. God did not change, you did. And with this change of you, commensurate is Gaia. Gaia changes, you change, you are intertwined. We've said it before, if the human being walks upon the planet, they affect the crystalline grid. The crystalline grid is not something that is physical in 3 dimension. It is an Akashic grid. That is to say, it remembers every footstep, every situation, every light worker, every match bearer. Collectively, this Akashic grid speaks to the cave of creation, affects that which is ancestral, backwards and forwards. That is to say, what you do today affects those who will follow. The vibration that you put into the planet by what you do now literally affects the consciousness of those coming. That was the lesson of last week. It's important that you understand that you change. If you're here as an old energy worker, I will say this: you are now seeing the evolution into the new energy worker. All the things that you did have paid off. Do not resent that which you've created. And do not criticize that which you've manifested. For today the earth is different because of what you did yesterday. This entire day has been filled with teaching that my partner has given around current events. And yet there are many who are listening and reading right now who are not part of that teaching. So we give enhancements to what he has said that may or may not be understood by those who would hear and read for the first time. So we will try to make it as succinct and summarize what we can. My partner spoke of the time fractals. a system of potentials that the ancients knew of and saw, that science is now starting to measure, that would indicate that time is not in a straight line at all, but is in a circle, and that the multidimensionality of time is starting to then be measured, understood, as much as it can be with a three-dimensional system. But the potentials of what is to come is now seen as something that the past has generated and that the future expected. And here it is. What the ancients told you about is indeed taking place at the moment, and that is to say that in alignment with that which you call the precession cycle of the planet, you also have that which is a potential of human consciousness shift. Again, Gaia is involved. Don't be surprised. Even the weather is involved, which we will speak of in a moment, with up to 3 kinds of cycles of the planet. Scientists are looking at the confluence of those 3 cycles, creating that which we have called the beginning of the water cycle, the refreshing of life on the planet yet again. It's all related to the time fractal. This is a 36-year window in astronomy of the precession cycle and the 26,000-year event, the middle of which is measured on the solstice, December 21, 2012. And here is your advice, yet again. Celebrate this midpoint. Celebrate the fact that you are still here. Celebrate the fact that you are not in the midst of a world war. There are many who said you would be. Many prophets of old, looking at the same things we look at. Measuring the potentials of what might be, going to the other side of the veil and looking at the quantum soup of the potentials of humanity, all coming back with the same kinds of predictions, all centering around these years of the 36-year event called the Great Shift, and where you would be and what you would be doing even hundreds of years ago. Many prophets saw it coming. And they realized it could go in several directions, but the potentials at that point in time were against you surviving. This explains why there is so much prophecy that says it is the end. These indeed are the end times, it says. You look around the planet, it looks like it, doesn't it? And for those who were not here this day, I reiterate some things that my partner said in my behalf. The cycle is not what you think. This is the 5th one. Only 5 have occurred. You canceled the potential of world war. You have rebuilt the structure of the geopolitical system on the planet. You avoided the majority of dictators. You've joined together economies. And you're starting to unify instead of separate. For those within the sound of my voice or reading these pages, I tell you this: that the financial difficulties that are taking place right now in this country you call the United States is the result of pruning a system that some said was unprunable. And I echo that which my partner has said, that in a dynamic system where one affects another, you're going to have the entire system change because you decided to clean up one section. What are you going to do with it? The consciousness that follows in this country will help determine what happens next. And here it is, the acknowledgement that in the system that you have developed, consciousness plays a part. In economics, you've learned something called the accelerator. That is defined as the marginal propensity to consume. That is done by consumers. How do you feel about it? What I'm telling you is this: it's not going to get better as you sit in the corner and watch. It's going to get better as you participate. I'll leave it at that. Here's a system that depends upon the citizens at the grassroots level to create jobs for themselves. Yes, but Kryon, you haven't given us the potential. Oh, yes, I did. I just did. As we look into the quantum soup of what humans might do, and we look in here a year from now, 2 years from now, we see strength. We see solution. It does not happen fast. Not fast enough for you. That is what this time fractal has brought to you. Do you realize that the financial difficulties you're having now is a direct result of what the Mayans said could happen? All those hundreds of years ago, they knew what you're going to do. Do you have the courage to congratulate yourself for the recession? We've said it again. Do you have that which is possible? Can you stand on the hillside and say, thank God we're going through this? These are the shifts and the changes that the prophets did not see. We'll speak of that in just a moment as well. The weather will continue to change and shift. Some of it will appear to get worse. Record temperature shifts. Too much heat, too much cold. The heat is melting partially the ice caps on target, on schedule, creating a shift of weight on the crust, creating volcanoes, earthquakes, crust trauma. And here is the invitation yet again. Clear. It is a cycle, predictable, understandable, and we invite the scientists to go check it. Look at the ice cores. Look at the rings of the trees. Look where you have to look. And you will find this has happened before. Do not fear these things, which are cycles of the planet that occur naturally through Gaia's involvement with human consciousness. They are here yet again. They will refresh the oceans, create new paradigms of that which we say is the essence of why life exists and how it grows. All comes from the ocean, and you know that. It must be refreshed. That you may not have known. Life processes stagnate over hundreds of years, must be refreshed. The ice caps are the answer. Eventually, it will settle into a time of cooling. It has happened before. Humans have been here. Humans have survived. It is slow. You can get out of the way. There'll be more ice than you've ever seen before in your lifetime. Now, that is difficult to talk about. When you sit in an audience where outside it's very hot. It's a cooling cycle on the planet. The storms will be reactive to a cooling ocean. All the things that the meteorologists have seen in the past, the cycles are starting to change. All on schedule. Let me ask you a question. Does it make sense that God would refresh the life-producing cycle of this planet if you were all going to die in a few years? It would not. All of these things exist to feed you. All of these things exist for abundance in the ocean, for the eventuality over 2 more generations of a revitalized ocean with plenty of fish. Things that you didn't expect to come to life. Let this be a prediction that you will see these things, some of you in your lifetime, but your children will. And let some of them listen to this and read these things and realize that there is a system perhaps they did not understand or know about that is benevolent, that loves humanity, that is part of the creative energy of the universe. It's here. It's about how Spirit feels with you. It's about the love of God. Go through these shifts. One of the largest shifts in humanity is taking place in consciousness. And that's what we'll talk about next. Some have called it the Great Shift, and you're seeing that which we call the wild cards appear, and there's going to be more of them. I'll explain that in a moment. If you wish to accelerate the shift, you will get on with the obvious on how to create your electricity. Kryon, you sound like a repeating record. You need to hear it again. Have you not seen the folly of an extremely expensive steam engine called nuclear? It'll work, and you can make it semi-safe if you want to spend more money. But there are other ways of creating power. What about the steam engine using the heat of the planet, which is under your feet? If you were to spend a fraction of what you are spending on your nuclear machines, on the research to get the heat out of the ground, to boil the water, to create the plants, you would find you could do it. Using Gaia as it was designed to be used by humanity. And you don't have to boil water. And we have told you this before. There are exotic substances that will boil far, far cooler than water, creating the steam you need with the pistons and those things that are the machines that you use to create electricity. You don't have to be over a hot spot. You can do it almost anywhere. I challenge those of mechanical minds to get on with this, to show it can be done, and to look at the cost of it, for you're going to find it's less costly than nuclear, and there is no substance to eliminate. And if it gets destroyed by a tsunami, it's just water. No danger. And the second thing I'll repeat is the hundreds of thousands of tons of push-pull energy given to you by the oceans and the seas that you're not using, sitting there seemingly going to waste. Hydropower. It's all around you, and you're not using it. Now here's a hint to the scientists. Why do you continually overcomplicate everything? You want to make exotic propellers underwater to capture the tides, not even thinking of a simple solution as easy as a paddle wheel on top. Simplify your thinking. Create that which will work for you, which will turn the wheels over and over and over for an infinity of time, creating free electricity. All you have to do is build a machine. Let it turn. Doesn't have to be computer controlled. Doesn't have to be exotic. Won't have to have underwater materials with submersibles to serve it. Think simple. It's going to happen. It has to happen. It's the next step. There will be those who hear my voice and do not hear my voice, who never read this, who will do it. For it's going to happen intuitively all over the globe as part of a consciousness shift. Invention consciousness is not new. If you take a look at the greatest inventions you've ever had, some of the simplest things that you now take for granted, the invention of the telephone, of the radio, of the light bulb, of flight. Did you know that there were many inventors working on the same thing at the same time? Up to 5 or 6 simultaneously. They didn't even know each other. It's something that happens on the planet. When it's supposed to happen, the ideas are given. And the consciousness is whoever can reach it first wins the prize. So let it be that you would have an earth engine, ways to boil water inexpensively, without much digging, creating beautiful steam engines that will even rival the power that you can get from nuclear. Completely and totally safe. Using the ocean, finally, to move that which is on the surface, if you wish, which can be serviced on the surface, if you wish, without exotics, without the major expense that some feel is there, to power your cities. The great shift will create new inventions like that. The great shift will finally give you that which is the conversion of salt water to fresh through nanotechnology. We have given you that in the past. It is being done now. There are those who are getting these inventions. They take a while. Look for it. It will solve the drinking water problem on the planet completely. Real-time exchange. In goes salt water, out comes fresh water at the same velocity. You need these things. You need these things in order to live longer. You need these things to build your civilization stronger. It's what a peaceful earth is going to become. There'll be no arguments over power, over water. No wars are going to be fought over power, over water. As in the past, when you needed oil, there were the haves, the have-nots. There still are. And you're not going to need the oil as much. This is what new consciousness brings, and this is where it's going, I am telling you. There are wild cards coming your way. Wild card is described and defined as that which occurs on the planet, which everyone can see, that is normally geopolitical, which no one ever expected, ever. Example which we have spoken of in the past is the fall of one of the largest economies and systems you have ever witnessed, called the Soviet Union. Total and complete collapse almost overnight without war. The wild card.